All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, depending on what part of the world you are joining us from. I am your host, Alex Faust, and very excited to be joined today by a first-time guest, Amanda Holmes. If you're not familiar with Amanda, she is the CEO of Chet Holmes International, which has worked with over 250,000 businesses worldwide. And at the age of 24, she inherited her father's multi-million-dollar enterprise, which specializes in helping companies double their sales. She's merged her father's proven process with her own forward-thinking ideas to connect the old school sales process with the hybrid online and offline instant gratification, short attention span we're seeing of our customers today. And the methodology is based on Chet Holmes' New York Times bestseller, The Ultimate Sales Machine, which has been voted in the top 10 most recommended sales books of all time. And Amanda's mission is to teach the last and most important lesson that her father never got to reveal to radically change the lives of those passionate about success and sales. So, Amanda, thank you so much for joining us today. Where are you calling in from?
I'm at Funnel Hacking Live in Orlando.
Very fun. Are you enjoying the conference thus far?
It is pretty hysterical. So if you can see, this is a human billboard. It is a backpack that is a billboard, and it lights up, and it's about 4 feet tall. And I can't even get in the door because so many people are coming up to me because they love the book and they see it. So it's been a really hilarious start to this conference.
Well, maybe before we finish, you should put on the backpack and model it for us.
Everybody loves it. It's really, really funny.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you spending some time with us today. I know there's a new edition of the Ultimate Sales Machine coming out. So curious. Oh, you've got it in hand. So I'm curious what's changed over the last 15 years. Why the reboot?
Oh my goodness.
What's new?
Absolutely. So if we think, let's look to the last 50 years, the changes that happened in marketing per se. We went from radio to television. It took 50 years to get to 50 million users on radio, and then it took 13 years to get to 50 million users on television, and then it took 4 years to get to 50 million users on Facebook. So the amount of innovation that has happened just in the last 10 years is insane. So before, when my father first wrote the book, we had the average client or the average company would be on 7 different marketing mediums on average. Today, we're on an average of 13 marketing mediums with 5 social media platforms and 3 paid advertising sites. So we are doing double the amount of work to get the attention of our prospects because there is so much noise out there today. My father called it the clutter factor. And this was before 3.8 billion people had a social media page. So we're perpetually fighting for the attention of our prospects. And so I include in the book how to overcome that overwhelm, how to overcome the shiny object syndrome, how to get super focused and clear. And as my father always said, mastery isn't about doing 4,000 different things. It's about doing 12 things 4,000 times.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And a reminder to the folks who are here live, if you have questions, please type them into the chat, the Q&A. We'll get to those during the last 10 minutes of today's conversation.
Please. I love questions.
Awesome. So I've heard that you've said this, and we've been talking about this in a couple episodes in a row, that we're really experiencing like the death of the salesperson and birth of more of like a strategist, because buyers have changed so dramatically over the last couple of years. Wondering if you can talk about this change and what organizations really need to be doing differently to connect with their ideal buyers today.
Absolutely. So that title, actually, Death of a Salesman, Birth of a Strategist, I found in a letter that my father had written, and it was never released. And it's so apropos today. He wrote it 15 years ago. But when we think about how people are buying today, 97% of our prospects feel that salespeople are too pushy. So if you think of the last 100 clients that have come into your world, only 3 of them were happy with their experience. So And that really comes from the fact that Amazon has taken over, right? We can so easily go online. We're buying houses unseen. I have a client that sells high-end cars for $300,000, sight unseen. They are just looking at it online and they're purchasing without a salesperson. It is mind-blowing, the trust that we have online. So it completely negates the traditional commissioned breath salesperson that feels that they have to be pushy and try to get you to do something you don't want to, or try to be manipulative, that salesperson has died. They have gone extinct, or they will very quickly. You really have to learn, because of the internet, we have the ability to give value unlike ever before. We have the ability to be number one in our marketplace because we're providing that value. We have the ability to educate so much and build so much trust and respect that when they come to you and actually ask for your assistance, the sales should be effortless and easy, and it should never feel pushy because we have all the tools. We just need to know how to utilize the tools appropriately.
So I know you just mentioned trust and building that trust, and building the trust is very different today on an online world where there's a ton of options and we're overwhelmed with information, and there's still plenty of like scammy, crappy stuff on the internet. So what are you recommending to your clients to cut through the noise and build trust in a really meaningful way with their clients and prospects?
So my father invented this thing called the buyer's pyramid. So at any given time, if you're reaching out to a prospect and you're saying, hey, I want to talk to you about, look, let's imagine you're in a stadium and you wanted to keep everyone in their seats. Majority of companies would say, hey, I'd like to talk to you about my business. This is why we're great at what we do. We've been around for this many years. We've served this many people. But according to what my father created, which is the buyer's pyramid, I wanted to pull it up. Only 3% of the buyer's pyramid is interested in buying now. So you'll see that very top portion, 3% in the buying now category. The next 7% are open to it. They're thinking about it. The next 30%, it's not in their periphery. They're not thinking about it. The next 30% think that they're not interested. And the last 30% are definitely not interested. So 90% of your potential prospects that are hearing your marketing and sales messages are not interested in you, your product, or service. So if all you're doing, I'm sorry, I'm in the middle of an interview, but I'll talk to you later. So if all you're doing, sorry, somebody I love was waving at me.
Okay.
So if all you're doing is talking about you, you're missing out on 90% of prospects. So what we do is we teach, stop selling, start educating. So how do we lead with an education? I have a client that sold, can you still hear me? Okay.
Yep.
I have a client that sold high-end condos out of Dubai. And they used to talk about granite countertops and ocean views, and it was $2 million to $10 million for a second home. So they were really focused on billionaires as their clientele and Fortune 500 CEOs. So instead of reaching out to them saying, hey, I'd like to talk to you about granite, that's not what they care about. And only 3% would be interested. And that's a very small percentage of the billionaires that are around the world. So we changed their approach. We call it a stadium pitch. Why wealthy CEOs are at risk for heart disease, diabetes, and premature death, and what you can do about it. Completely different approach, right? But leading with something that was very intriguing for a billionaire, because what's one thing that a billionaire can't handle? It's their health. A lot of the time when we did research, we found what's keeping them up at night. It's not their ocean view. It is their health. It is diabetes, and they don't want to die because everyone around them is so stressed. They're having difficulties with their health. So we trained the sales reps on how to talk about what was interesting to the prospect.
That's interesting. Do you have any other examples other than like
so
the billionaire?
Many.
Can you share
Absolutely.
some others?
Is there some industry you'd like me to focus in on? I mean, I have them for days.
Let's go with like manufacturing.
Yep.
Business.
So we worked with a division of Panasonic, and they were selling bathroom fans. And when I went to meet with the head of that division, his kids were like, why does it matter what dad does? He just sells fart fans. And I was like, oh my God, that's terrible that your kids don't think that you do anything and you just sell fart fans. But they were selling to builders. So a builder has so many different pieces in a house. Why would they take a call to talk about a bathroom fan? It really wasn't a top priority for them. So when we did research on builders, we started finding all this information on indoor air quality. And we started relating it back to the builder. Like, did you know, it's something around this, don't quote me, I'll have to go back to their deck, but something around like you're 5 times more likely to get diagnosed with cancer if you work from home, because the regulations on HVAC, on air quality in a commercial building is much stronger than at home. People just don't care. And then we started talking about the amount of lawsuits that happen because of mold and what it causes for diseases, and how indoor air quality is one of the most important things you could possibly think of. So we reset. This is what the education needs to do. It needs to reset their buying criteria. So they went from bathroom fans are very low on the list, I don't care about them at all, to that's one of the most important things I need to do because of this, and this, right? It could cause the people that live there cancer. So leading them in an education that educates them to you as the only logical conclusion. So that particular division grew by 300% over a 9-year period. To move Panasonic is a pretty difficult thing, right? They're like a Titanic. To move them just an inch is a lot. But we have a lot of smaller businesses as well that we've assisted with this. But I just think that one's a funny one. And you said manufacturing first.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not sure if this is like the most thing that you're most well known for, but it's certainly up there, and it's the concept of the Dream 100. So
yeah,
I'd love to share the Dream 100 concept with the community. Can you talk about what you've seen and how that's helped organizations double their sales?
Absolutely. So the Dream 100 is the fastest, least expensive way to double sales. It has doubled the sales of more companies than anything else. So my father invented it working for a billionaire, Charlie Munger, co-chairman of Berkshire Hathaway. So he was able to double the sales of 9 different divisions for Charlie, all within 12 to 15 months, and several of them multiple years consecutively. So he realized, I have a system for how to double sales. And it's very simple. So he was given a list of 2,200 potential prospects. And they said, okay, go cold call these people. And he looked at the list and went, that's a lot of people. Let me do some research. And when he analyzed the list, he realized that there were only 167 that bought 95% of their space. So instead of going after the 2,200, he led an intensive Dream 100 effort to those 167, where he would touch with some kind of education once a week, every week. So at that time, tactics were direct mail, cold calling, and faxing. Today, we have so many more tools at our disposal to be able to use. But at that time, that's what he used. And it was about 5 months in of every single week contacting them. And they weren't giving him the time of day until the 6th month. He closed the largest contract that the industry had ever seen. And then 28 more after that. And that's how he was able to double sales so many times over and over again. So the concept, if I were to say in a definition, there are always a smaller number of better buyers than there are all buyers. That means that marketing and selling to them is cheaper than marketing and selling to all buyers. And I would even challenge every person on this call right now, who is one person that could completely alter and change your world? Just being connected to that one person. It could be an affiliate, it could be an influencer, it could be a direct client. I'm working right now a deal to close Volvo. If I win Volvo, I win their 280 other clients that work under Volvo. Pretty good deal for me, right? So I'm hungry on that. I've been on it for 2 years, but I will get it. It's just a matter of time. So I sometimes people feel overwhelmed by the 100. So my question would be, write down right now, who would be one person that you could commit to that you would continually reach out to try and go from, I've never heard of you, to, oh, I think I've heard of you, to, oh, I recognize that name, to, yeah, we know each other, to, yeah, we work together. That's the process and the steps to get to a Dream 100.
And what's the best way to identify the Dream 100? Like, are you recommending that people like niche down to something like very specific, or is it just looking at like an ideal or well-known company or brand name that if you get that, then you get the other things? What's the recommendation there?
That is a great question, Alex. And if anybody has any other questions, please add them to the chat, because I love answering questions. I love interacting. So I actually have a 47-point process that I take people through in our boot camp of how to identify your dream clients. But I will give you a piece of homework that everyone can do. So over the last year, look back at all of your prospect or all of your clients over the last year and list them who has spent the most money with you. Have those at the top and then list them down. And what you'll find is, as you start looking, majority of people that have quite a bit of business coming through their door don't know who their top 5 clients are off the top of their head. Majority don't. We do this exercise all the time with our clients. Or when they look at it, they realize, holy cow, 60% of my clientele are break even. What am I doing focused on those that are just break even? It's just busy work. So when you analyze your history of what it has worked and what is working, then you can better identify who are those moving ahead. I think that's one good, easy, simple takeaway. I could get way granular on that, but maybe we keep it at that. Does that feel good?
Yeah, that's great. I'm curious with, the advance of digital marketing and influencers all over the internet, like has the Dream 100 list adapted? It seems like maybe there could or should be more than 100, or is 100 just like a good place to start because it's manageable?
It really depends on the company's resources. So if you are the only person doing a Dream 100, I would probably start more at what I've been calling the target 12. So when I first inherited my father's business, I was 24 years old. I had a couple hundred staff. They were all double, if not triple my age. It was terrifying. I had no idea what I was doing. I stepped in 2 years later, and I really had to put us back on the map. How do I set us apart and say, we're not this tragedy, we can actually triumph over this, and we're here to stay? So I found 15 of the biggest influencers in my space, and I worked them all against each other. I'm like, we're doing the biggest event that entrepreneurs will ever see this year. And I'm talking with this guy and this guy and this guy. And I was name dropping, just trying to get them all to say yes. And I finally got the 12 to say yes. I generated 30,000 leads without spending a dime, purely because they all marketed out. So I didn't have to find 100 people to market on my behalf to generate 30,000. I just had 12. So that's where this idea of, okay, the target 12, let's get hyper focused. And if you can commit with every fiber of your being that no matter what, hell or high water, pardon my French, I will get this client. And you do it, there's a way to do it, right? It's being a bright spot in their day. It's providing so much value they can't refuse. You are in their face, in their place, in their space. Here's something that you didn't know. Here's some education. Here's something that you'd find valuable. Hey, here's maybe a client. Oh, here's how you can save some time. You are just in their world until they just feel morally obligated to reciprocate something because you've been there. And if you can find the three, I recently did this exercise with a recent boot camp, and a guy identified 12 prospects that would generate him $250 million lifetime value. He's like, why am I wasting my efforts going after thousands and thousands when if I just hyper focused, I could get better success than all of the craziness that I'm doing.
That's great. And so one last question before we start getting to the audience questions. You mentioned like you just keep going until you get it. One of the things that you talk about in your work, and it's in the book, is this pig-headed discipline. And I'm curious if you can explain pig-headed discipline and if that goes beyond the typical like Brazilian's grit attitude, or is it similar?
So I love that. That's a great question, because usually when people read Ultimate Sales Machine, they say that the biggest takeaway is that pig-headed discipline and determination. And the book was actually supposed to be called The Pig-Headed Executive Wins Every Time. And that's what my father wanted to be named. And then the Penguin was like, that book will never sell. We can't sell that book. It has to be The Ultimate Sales Machine. And granted, Ultimate Sales Machine did well. So, they might have been right there. But it's this concept of, so I'll even give it to you in an example of like a sales rep. So today, 80% of sales are made on the 5th to 12th contact, and yet 90% of salespeople stop after just 3 follow-ups. 3 follow-ups. Half of them stop after 1 follow-up. So if you have to have the pig-headed discipline and determination to continue to follow up until they become a client. I have a great case study that I tell of the new age of Dream 100 where my father was cold calling, always trying to find something to talk about with a prospect. Today, we know everything about them if they're on social. So I found somebody that I really wanted a dream client for me. And every single day, this man posted on his social, and every single day I commented on something that he posted for 3 months straight. And he wasn't really in dialogue with me, but every day I was talking about his wife and his kids and his business. And I was in his face, in his place, in his space. We became best buds. I mean, he didn't say much. I mostly did all the talking. But after 3 months of nonstop, right, just acknowledging him, giving him helpful tips, like he posted about boots and going hiking. And I was like, wait, be careful. I climbed Kilimanjaro and I went in new boots and it ripped my feet to shreds. Make sure you break in the boots before you go on a big hike. Always providing value, always being that expert and positioning myself in a way that he felt trust and respect with me. So that in that 3 months, he then came back to me and said, Amanda, I'd like to buy 650 of the Ultimate Sales Machine and send them to my best clients. Would that be okay? And yes, of course that would be okay. And I'm still bearing the fruit of that labor even right now.
It's awesome. So a couple questions from the community. The first one is, in your first example of connecting with the clients in today's digital world, we're talking about the health issues of the billionaires and the CEOs.
Yeah.
How did you transition then to real estate once you caught their attention?
Oh, this is a really good one. Actually, I could pull it straight from the book. It's right here. Hold on. So the new section that I did is I explain how we find market data and blend them together. So we grab them with something that's happening as a trend across the industry. So global pain. We're more stressed than ever. More than half of all executives do not have a satisfactory work-life balance. Doctors recommend 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night, but the average Fortune 500 CEO gets 4 to 5 hours of sleep a night. Sleep deprivation has been linked to strokes, increased the likelihood by 50%, heart disease increasing by 25%. And from there, so I'm grabbing their attention, right? I'm just giving you some ideas. Then it goes into the solution portion. People who take vacations lower their risk of heart attack by 50%. Vacationers experience an 80% increase in job performance. So I haven't mentioned that I sell second homes that kind of feel like vacations on the water, and yet I've already hit them in their pain of what they're thinking about, given them a solution of what they could potentially consider. I haven't pitched anything, and they're already in a place of, maybe I should get a place by the water, right? So that would be a transition of how then it goes into. So if you were to consider having a second home by the ocean that feels like a vacation, there's 5 things you need to consider before finding a developer. And here are the things. So that's how we backed our way into that. So it's in the new edition. That whole case study is in the new edition. This is chapter 4, which you get if you go to ultimatesalesmachine.com. It's out in about a week's time. So
awesome. The next one is says Chet had some interesting process improvement systems. Are you able to refresh our understanding on those?
Oh man, so many. The 6 steps to increase your productivity by 500%. That's all around time management secrets of billionaires, which is like touch it once. We waste a week's worth of vacation a year rereading information. So every time you open up your email and you read an email, and then you come back to it and you read again. And then you come back, we're wasting valuable time. So as soon as you touch it, take action on it, whether it's replying and saying, I need more time to reply to this, or let's discuss this in our weekly meeting, or putting it into a folder to handle later. Once we touch it once, take action on it immediately. That's the first step out of the 6. I'd recommend it's the first chapter of Ultimate Sales Machine if you want to see all of them, unless you want me to go through that piece.
No, it's okay. We'll keep going through. I'm sure Rick has the book and he'll come back to it. I'm assuming Rick has the book. He's a big reader. So John is saying, Amanda, thanks for the specifics. No BS, just great examples and tools. And then another question from Nicholas: how do we translate the Dream 100 for a transactional e-commerce company without a traditional sales team? Is it simply focusing on high RFM customers, or are there other tricks and tips?
Yep. You can focus on high-end customers, and then who is that high-end customer and where do they spend their time? So if you know that they spend their time in a specific Facebook group, if you know that they spend their time at the yacht club, if you know that they spend their time with this particular influencer, then your Dream 100 can become going to those Facebook groups, going to those influencers, going to a complimentary service. So I just connected a client with a friend of mine. The friend has 35,000 coaches in his database. and he sells coaching training. And then I have a client that teaches coaches how to charge 10K a day, where it's this process. So you don't have to charge 10K for a year. You're just charging it for one day. So I connected them together because now this gentleman that has the audience can get more money from his current audience by offering their product. So it's a bolt on, and then it helps them because the audience is already there. So it's a win-win for both scenarios. So who else serves your clientele where you could be an addition to what they're already providing? So they would be grateful to get more money, right? You're giving them a commission on what you're doing in exchange for having their client base see your offer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you. And Nicholas, if you have any follow-ups, please feel free to type them in. We've only got about 2 minutes, and there's one question I really do want to ask you because it was in like the information I was using to prepare. You talk about a topic, which is how to get 9 times more responses from every move you're already making to generate new clients. And I'm wondering if you can give a sneak peek, because I'm sure the community could really benefit from like a work smarter, not harder strategy. And I'm included in this. So very invested in understanding this tactic.
So that is the buyer's pyramid that I went through, right? Okay. 90% of them are not thinking about, you think that they're not interested or definitely not interested. So when I took my father's buyer's pyramid, I flipped it upside down because business is flipped on its head. I flipped the buyer's pyramid on its head. So it looks more like a funnel now. So what I did, that funnel then becomes, what is the education that you're giving that leads them to you is the only logical conclusion. And I talked about it very briefly when I was talking about the high-end real estate company. So starting with, and this is how we've helped more companies become number one in their industry than anybody else, is this education and how you structure your framework, because content online is now so bountiful, 40% of it is actually hindering the probability of your sale. So we've forgotten the framework for how to turn content into sales. So it goes like this: global pain. Let's talk about a global pain that's happening. It could be industry trends over time. Even saying 95% of businesses never make it above $1 million in annual sales. That would be something that's happening over time. That's a global pain. Then targeted pain. You want to articulate their pain better than they can, so they believe that you have the solution. So one thing I teach about is the Great Resignation, because 47 million Americans voluntarily left their job last year. And it was a big pain point for my prospects, CEOs. So I educate them on that because it shows that I understand their pain. And we're just trying to make them feel understood. Then from target pain, then we go into the solutions, because we want to set ourselves up as experts. What can we do to just solve a piece of their pain? We don't have to solve all of their pain. Can we show them how to save time, save money, save stress? And then from the solutions, the difference between content marketing and what my father taught, which is education-based marketing, is resetting of the buying criteria. You want to educate them on everything that they need to know to lead to you as the logical conclusion, because you could just educate them a ton and then they go to the competition and they buy from them. So you need to specifically say, these are the things you need to look for before buying a product or service like mine. And then if you've done all of those steps right, they should already be interested in buying, and you haven't even mentioned your service yet. So then talking about you become the number one logical conclusion. So that's all in chapter 4. That's the core story framework. And ultimatesalesmachine.com.
Fantastic. Well, Amanda, a real pleasure to have you join Conversations at the Edge today. I look forward to more from you and from your content and Ultimate Sales Machine in the Growth Institute community in the near future. So I hope everybody is excited for that. Thank you to the community.
Love it. And everybody that heard, I'm on Instagram at Amandita Holmes, my salsa name, Amandita, not Amanda, because Amanda Holmes was taken. But
I think you should say that one more time, because I didn't hear super clearly.
For the people that are on, I want to say hello. So go hop over on social and say hello to me. I spend more time on Instagram. And Amanda Holmes was taken. So I took my salsa name, Amandita Holmes. So you can find me at Amandita Holmes on social and just say hello. Let me know, what was your value? What was your takeaway? If you have any questions, ask me. I would love to know.
Fantastic. Well, enjoy Funnel Hacking Live. And we will see you again soon, I'm sure.
Great. Thank you so much, Alex. It's been such a fun time. And thank you for everybody that was on. It's great.
Yeah. See you next week.